Welcome back to Northwest City Politics in the Know with Juanita. We're glad that you're joining us again this week. We're always happy for people like you, people that are interested in the issues that are happening in our cities. Council and the mayor and the city staff and the city residents. So when you're interested in what's happening, we'll then encourage you to get involved when it's an issue that's important to you. If you haven't watched our program before, each week we'll have someone on from one of the city councils in CCX's viewing area talking about what's currently happening and what's going to come up in the future. If it's your city, take down their name and email and phone number. And if it's not your city and you see an issue that's interesting to you, call up your city council and mayor and find out what they're doing. And I'm very happy tonight to welcome as a guest Mayor Mark Steffenson.
Thank you.
From Maple Grove, right?
That's correct.
The snowiest city around right now.
Snowiest city around in April,
right,
the middle of April.
Right. Now, and you've been on my show before, so you know that I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself out there to our wider audience. Tell them a little something about yourself and your time in Maple Grove.
Sure. I'm Mark Steffenson. I'm the mayor of Maple Grove. I've lived in Maple Grove since about 1987. I've been on the city council since 1997 when I was on the city council, and I became mayor in 2001. I've been mayor ever since. My wife and my daughter, we live together in Maple Grove, and she'll be a senior next year in high school, so not too far in the distant future we'll be empty nesters, but
right.
You know, it's been a wonderful place to live and raise a family, and so you know, my other part of my life, I'm also an attorney at a firm in Maple Grove called Henningsen and Snoxville, so that keeps me busy, all those different things, and so it's great to be the mayor of Maple Grove.
I think we've got a pretty good area up here in the
We
Northwest.
have a wonderful set of suburbs up here in the Northwest suburbs.
And then I asked you to think about, what are some of the issues that your residents are most likely to ask you questions about?
You know, I think that more often than not it has to do with what are the new developments coming to town and what are the transportation issues that we're working on, how we're going to fix transportation. That's always a concern. And then, you know, there are individual issues as well that people raise.
Right.
But I think if you're talking about overall, those are really the main issues.
And then we talked a little bit ahead of time about some issues, so we'll start with them. The first one that we'll talk a little bit about, Maple Grove is adding some athletic fields. So I'm sure some of your sports groups are happy to hear about that. How many fields are you proposing to build?
So what we're proposing to do is up at the Maple Grove High School on the north side of the stadium field. The city owns several acres of land. We bought that many years ago, and what we are looking to do and what we will be doing here this spring is we're going to be building 4 new turfed athletic fields that are lit. They will be designed really for soccer, lacrosse, and football. We're working together with the school district and with the local club teams, so the lacrosse club, the football associations, and the soccer club, to try and make sure we design it the way they want to. And it'll have a nice storage building, concession stand, bathroom facility out that'll service those fields. And then it'll have a real nice warm-up area too. I mean, the idea is that we want to be able to host a lot of major competitions. I know that lacrosse is very excited because I think, you know, with that site then at Maple Grove Senior High, you'll have 6 turf fields there, so they can host regional competitions.
So
you can bring in
do those kinds of things,
bring teams from around the state and around the country to play, and it'll be great for our local players, but it'll also be a nice attraction, a nice draw for our community, for our businesses, you know, especially our restaurants and our hotels.
Right. Yeah, it kind of is a good attractor to your city.
It's a great attractor, and there'll be a lot of sports-related activities happening from, you know, sort of early April when we don't have snow, through into November, because they're turf fields. They can be used, and they'll be lit, so they can be used at night, and so it's a great setup for the city.
Yeah, and your city has been expanding over the years, so I'm sure that it gets to be hard to schedule those fields.
It's very hard to schedule, and there's a lot of competition between the organizations and a lot of needs, and with these fields being turf fields, they will hold up better. The current problem, obviously one of them is that there's so many athletes who are playing at these fields, the fields get torn up, so especially in the springtime. And so we'll be able to have a very good facility for these teams to play on, and obviously the high school will be able to take advantage of it as well.
Sure. What's the process that comes about that makes this happen? From the point of where you've got people saying, we don't have enough fields to your building them, maybe a little bit in general.
Sure, sure. I think that it's actually a much longer process, I think, than people would think. We have the Citizens Advisory Committee in Maple Grove that oftentimes looks at these type of issues. Do we need these additional athletic fields? We hear from the organizations. We ourselves study the issue to make sure that if we spend the money, is it a good expense of money? Will it be used? Will the numbers make sense for the usage? I mean, we aren't going to be doing this for 100 kids are going to play. We need to have a lot of kids. And it takes a while, and then you have to study on how you're going to lay out the field so that the access is right, the parking's right, the concessions, the bathrooms work, all those different things.
Oh, lots of details. Work
together, and then, you know, we're very excited too because of the location. It's very helpful for the high school and its associated teams. So we'll have a joint powers agreement with them so they can use the fields for their, you know, not only for their FIAD or daily activities during school, but also for their athletic teams as well.
And a lot of times people aren't aware that both the cities and the school districts wanting to be economically efficient do a lot of projects together.
And I think that we've had a very good relationship with the school district over the years. You know, a lot of our large, newer projects in the city are joint powers agreements with the school district. So a good example is the new basketball gyms at the middle school. We essentially paid for them. They're on school property. They take care of them. They maintain them with the Basketball Association. Another good example is the dome up at the high school already. We built that probably 10, 15 years ago now, and again, it was really the city using some of its money, school district land. The school district is paying for the upkeep of the building right now, but you know, it's a great operation, so they get to use it throughout the school day, and then we use it after 5 for all the different athletic programs. And
you don't duplicate things.
We don't duplicate things, we don't double things, so it's a very cost-effective and very efficient way. And with the way we've worked together with the school district, you know, they've been great operations. They're great, you know, great facilities for the kids to learn how to play. And I think you can see in how well our local high school teams do who use these facilities, how it's really benefited them and how they're getting great opportunities to go to college and play in college. And it's a lot of fun. Now
we'll switch gears and talk about new development, because Maple Grove has a lot of it going on over the last several years, right? A very busy place. Now, Noran, which is a development company, for those out there who are not sure about it, has a project on the gravel pit mining area, kind of near Elm Grove Parkway and Hemlock Lane.
Right.
And maybe you can tell us about, this is an apartment complex, right?
So there's actually 2 phases to the project. One is the apartment complex. It's a very set of high-scale, upscale apartment units that have just opened up. So they are just starting to take occupancy now. There's several hundred new apartments that have gone in at this location that has an 80,000 square foot you know, facility that they can use for their tenants. So if you want to go there, there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, whether it's a pool, a sauna, golf simulator, rooms to have parties, all sorts of things. They're very nice amenities. So that's
and that part's completed, right?
That part is completed. Not all the apartments are open yet, but that's what they're finishing up. But certainly some of them are now open. And then the second part of that new development is a series of retail stores and hotels and restaurants and other things like that.
Now, that part isn't started yet, but you have the plans for what's going to go in there?
The sort of, I'll call the little retail area has been built. Tenants are just starting to take occupancy. And so I think they figured that over the next 6 months, they'll be filling up that. And then they have approval for 2 new hotels. And so those 2 new hotels will start being built this summer. There are a couple of pads for new restaurants. And I believe from what we understand that at least one of the new restaurant pads will be begun this spring and hopefully open in the fall. And then there's probably going to be a bank and an office space in that same location. So a lot of lot of work over the summer that will be done.
Right. And then a whole new area for people in Maple Grove to
all new people, new area to shop and to eat at.
And then we can come from out of the city too, because probably a lot of people use that area.
There will be a lot of people that will be coming to that area, whether it's for the hotels or for the restaurants or the shops.
And that's on the north side of Elm Grove Parkway, right?
Right.
If you're driving along there, you can see the little shops, but there's nothing in them. They're just starting.
They're just starting. So it's right on the northeast corner there of Elm Creek Boulevard and Hemlock. And I think you're going to see a lot of work over the summer on these additional buildings. And then next to that is where the new Schuler Shoes headquarters is going to go.
Oh, okay. So how long does it take for that part of the construction to get completed?
Well, I think that it sort of depends on which part of the project. Some of the part of the projects, we approved this project probably a year ago, and so maybe it's a year and a half now. And so obviously the apartments have taken about a year and a half to build. The commercial part is taking longer, but I expect once they get started here this summer, that for instance the hotels will be open sometime next spring.
Okay.
So it takes them, not quite a year, but it takes them probably 9-10 months to build the hotels.
Once you see it starting.
Once you see it starting.
Now, nearby the Grapple Pit area also has 4 large office buildings that are going to be constructed. Like I said, you've got a lot of things going, right? What's the size of these buildings that are coming up?
So it's the new office, the Arbor Lakes Business Park that we are now going to be opening. There are going to be 4 large buildings in this sort of part of the office park. A little over 1 million square feet of new space.
Wow.
So the buildings themselves will range somewhere between 250 and 300,000 square feet, depending on what the user wants. We'll see those be built over the next year or two. We have one company that we know is coming right now. They've signed a deal, and we're looking forward to them starting to build here this spring.
And now, that's one that's going to be a headquarters moving in there?
Right. It's a company called Illume. They currently have about 6 locations down in Bloomington where they have their different offices, their research, their corporate headquarters. They've decided to locate all of their sites into one location. So they're going to build a building that's 284,000 square feet. This can include their headquarters, all their offices, all the research and warehouse and manufacturing facility all together in one place. And they're going to be starting that this spring. They've received a couple of different grants from DEED and the state to bring these jobs to our city. So it's going to end up being a couple hundred new jobs that are good paying, well-paying jobs located in our community.
And then the buildings will be, some of them will be for an individual business and some will be several offices?
That's probably the idea. I think that the hope that they have is that they'll all be sort of individual one-user buildings, but my guess is that you'll probably have a couple of these buildings that will have 2 or 3 users. But I know that they've been talking to a couple other large users, and so I think their hope is that they can design the buildings appropriately for each of those corporate users and bring them into town. And then
bring jobs for people.
Bring a lot of good, that we're hoping for is more of the sort of med tech jobs that we have at Boston Scientific and some of our other med tech locations.
Because you've got several medical facilities around your area, right?
Right. We're probably, if not the most, one of the 2 or 3 highest employment jobs for med tech, those type of jobs in the metropolitan area. And the northwest suburbs, Brooklyn Park, Maple Grove, Plymouth, all these along here, Fridley, New Brighton, they're all known throughout the country for having these med tech jobs. And so it's actually, there's a large group that consolidates those interests, and it's called Medical Alley, and it's the largest location throughout the country of medical design jobs. So it's what we're known for throughout the country, and we bring a lot of those type of new jobs to our communities.
Then we're moving on a little bit out to County Road 81. There's an industrial warehouse building that's coming. Where is that going to be located?
So I guess the best way to describe it is the old Spancrete site. So it's straight south, essentially, of the Osseo High School or the Osseo High School fields. It's on the south side of County Road 81. It's going to be a new location for a very large set of industrial warehouse type buildings. Again, about 1 million square feet of additional space.
Ooh, wow.
So, it's a series of very large projects and very large developments in our city that we're excited to see coming. And the location is nice in some ways because it has a railroad spur that goes there, so that is perfect for some of the industrial users.
And then your city staff has to have spent a lot of work ahead of time to get all these groups to be moving to your community, right?
It's a lot of work by all of our staff, and our staff does a great job. We've, over the years, I think, become known for able to handle these type of projects and handle them efficiently and effectively, so that one of the big factors a business has is how long is it going to take me to build the building, and from the time I start looking at it till the time I can occupy it. And it's important for us as a city to make sure that we can make that time frame as short as possible, so that that attracts more businesses.
Oh, definitely. And the another area, moving a little bit farther, Hilger or Hilger?
It's Hilger Transfer Site.
Hilger Transfer Site is at 85th Avenue and Zachary Lane. Now, this site needed some cleanup. Maybe you can tell us about that and what happened.
Sure. The Hilger Transfer Site was an old, we'll call it dump. For the lack of us, people are a little bit older. We're used to the phrase of, you take stuff to the dump.
Right.
But that's essentially what it was back in the 50s and 60s, and I think into the early 70s. And so, because of that, there is some, environmental issues at the site.
Oh, right.
And so we have to clean up that soils. And so we received about $1.5 million in grants from the state to clean up that site. So we'll be proceeding forward this spring to clean up the site, remove the dirt, bring in good dirt, fresh dirt, clean dirt, and then we will go ahead and there will be a new building built there. And it's again about a 280,000 square foot building that's going to be built there. And my guess it won't open until sometime in 2019 because there's a lot of work to be done.
Right, to get it to the point where it's buildable.
Right.
Now, it's going to be a large, what kind of building?
It's going to be an industrial building.
Okay,
so
kind of comparable to the ones we've been talking about.
Comparable to the Park 81 building. My guess it'll be a multi-tenant building. I don't think it'll be a single user, but I think the process is the one that's interesting because we had to get the state involved, apply for the grants, get approval of the grants, and we applied for several different grants, got two or three grants that totaled that $1.5 million.
People, I think, sometimes are surprised at how much it costs to clean up an area, right?
It is very amazing, because you have to treat the soil appropriately and dispose of it appropriately, and then you have to make sure that the whole site is clean so you can use it properly.
And do it in an economic fashion for your city, right?
That's right.
Now, 4 new restaurants are coming to Maple Grove. Maybe you can tell us about each one in time, where they're going to be located and kind of when you think they might be opening.
Okay. Well, I think
because I think people are always interested in new
always
restaurants.
interested in new restaurants. We have a lot of these restaurants in Maple Grove, so I think the one that will open the soonest will be the Fiesta Cancun, which is on Main Street in Maple Grove. It's right next to 3 Squares. It should be open here by the 1st of May, so they are almost done with their operation. The next one that will probably open will be called Brick and Bourbon. It is the old Don Pablo site. So they are working right now on refurbishing the inside. It's a local independent type restaurant, same with Fiesta Cancun. One thing that we're excited about is these restaurants generally are really not national franchise restaurants. They're independents. So that's what Brick and Bourbon is, and they're going to be doing a big new beautiful outdoor patio as well with this location. So like I said, it's at the old Don Pablo site. So that will be ready here to be open this spring and summer. Then Crave will probably be the next one to open. Crave is currently starting its construction. It's right on the corner of Main Street, right where Wild Bill's used to be. They tore down Wild Bill's. So Crave will be coming in with their new rooftop, open seating and bar area on the rooftop, so that'll be a nice new idea.
Do you have any others that do that?
We don't have any other rooftop restaurant bars, so that'll be a nice new addition for our city. And the way it's being set up, it should be functional to be used essentially from late March, April through November. So that'll be nice. And then obviously they'll have the regular part of the restaurant as well. A very nice upscale restaurant. And then Rock Elm Tavern will be coming up to the area up by the hospital. And I would guess that they would probably open early of 2019. It's another independent. There's a single restaurant like it in Plymouth. And this will be the same type of concept, only located up by the Maple Grove Hospital.
So you'll have really expand your, what's the word? I don't know what the right word is. Restaurants that are not, that are all unto themselves because they're not a long chain. Yeah,
we'll have a lot of new restaurants with their sort of independent chefs that design their own menus and decide what they want to have, and that's what they do. And so that'll be nice to see.
Oh, right. Moving out to our northwest area.
Right.
Now, there's also a new doctor's building that's going to come into Maple Grove, kind of by the hospital. Maybe you can define it a little more closely than that.
Sure, it's going to be, it's directly west of the hospital, right off of Maple Grove Parkway. It's right across the parking lot from the Twin Cities Orthopedic Facility. It's between the Twin Cities Orthopedic Facility and the Cambria Suites Hotel. It's a new doctor's facility that will include several different practices, and it's continued to be a great draw of the hospital to bring these type of physicians to our community, because they're going to be at the hospital. Their patients want to be at the hospital, so they're treating the patients right nearby. So we continue to see a demand for continued growth in medical offices.
And what's the status of that project?
That project is now open. So the couple of the offices have opened, a couple of them haven't. And so they're ready to go, and that's exciting as well.
Oh, definitely. I'm just going to back up to the restaurants. A lot of people in a lot of the suburbs are looking for that very thing, don't you think?
I think a lot of people are looking for the non-franchise restaurant. They want to have a unique experience. And they find something that they like, and they'll go back there over and over again.
And then we have a little bit of time, and I always like to tell people how to get involved in the city, and maybe we can talk a little bit about your commissions and the process for doing that.
Sure. So in the city of Maple Grove, we have a series of commissions. We have a planning commission that most cities have. And we have 7 members on the planning commission, and certainly periodically we have openings, and generally we accept applications in the fall, in the November, December time period for that commission along with the other commissions, and we usually fill those commission openings in the early part of the year. So usually January we'll fill those commission openings. Unless there's a real need, we generally don't fill them during the year. Then we also have a park board that's a little bit different in the sense that we are one of 3 communities in the state of Minnesota that has an independent park board that runs the park system. So us, Rochester, and Minneapolis have this sort of independent. So we appoint the members, but we don't oversee their work. We don't control their work. They act independently from the city. Then there's the Citizens Advisory Committee. So that's a very large committee. Really what we do with that committee is we have them look at various issues in our community that we think are either important today or will be important in the future, and give us as a council some advice as to what do you think about this idea or this project. A good example would be the various athletic fields that we talked about earlier. We had them look at those projects and give us some comments and advice about that, so that we can hopefully hear from all corners of the community when we're doing that sort of process, to make sure that we're getting input from everybody to figure out, is this a good idea, is it a bad idea? We have an arbor committee. So they look at really the issues involving development and sort of how our trees are being held. We have a forest preservation area and open space area that the city owns, and they help us with that. And so it's a interesting committee as well.
Oh, yeah, it would be.
If you have that type of interest, it's
Right.
a really great committee
Right.
to be on. We also have a lake quality commission. So we have a series of lakes in Maple Grove.
Yeah, you do.
And so we developed this lake quality commission. Obviously, we're concerned about the water quality
Right.
in these lakes and how we deal with runoff issues and how we deal with other issues related to the lakes and how we deal with invasive species that have attacked those lakes. And so we have a commission that helps us look at the invasive species or the other issues that the lake has, like water quality, water clarity, and gives us input. And we have certain monies that we spend each year with the help and direction
Right.
of the Lake Quality Commission to decide what we should be doing to help these lakes out, to be better places for people to live
Right.
and to recreate. I think that's all the committees we
Okay.
have, a bunch of committees.
Now, all of those committees generally tend to meet once a month?
They
Some of them might meet,
actually, the planning commission will meet twice a month,
Okay.
but the rest of them tend to meet once a
Right.
month. And so, it's not a huge time commitment, but it is a real time commitment.
and all of those people are actually gathering information and finding out answers to things that save some time for the city council, right? Because they can bring you information
They can give us
so you can have more information on
and
more
recommendations,
areas.
right? And figure out. And generally, the good news is that the people that are on these committees are people that have passions about
Oh,
that
right,
issue,
right.
and they tend to bring a lot of knowledge to those areas. I mean, so a good example is the Arbor Committee. Most of those people have been, for work or otherwise, been deeply involved in arbor-related issues. So, they know and understand the plants, the trees, and all the different things that
Right.
relate to those things when they come to the committee. And so their knowledge is very helpful for our city.
Definitely. So we'll encourage people out there in Maple Grove who are kind of thinking about wanting to get involved in their city. This is a good area to take a look at.
It's a great area to look at, absolutely.
And you can get agendas and meeting times on your website,
Right?
and you can go to meetings.
Absolutely.
You can call and talk to people on that commission so that you learn, is that something that fits you? Because it is, you're going to put some time and effort out, so it should be something that interests you. But I'm sure there's ways of joining a lot more people into the process over time.
Right. You just have to decide what you're really interested in doing and then
Right.
become involved. It's, I encourage everyone to become involved in that
Right.
which they're passionate about, because it really is helpful for our city.
And then it makes a difference.
It does make
So
a
if
difference.
you put the time in, it'll make a difference.
Yes, it does.
Well, I want to thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your getting here and helping our people out there learn what's happening in Maple Grove. And we'll encourage you to tune in to next week's program to see part 2 on Maple Grove issues. We're glad that you've been with us, and we hope you'll join us again. Bye.